All right. Well, hey guys, my name is Pierre, and I'm a technical sales consultant with AVEVA California. And for this presentation, I'll be talking to you guys about the AVEVA Pi system. And so for those of you that are new to Pi, I'll explain what it is and what it can do for you. But I'll also discuss how Pi is for everyone, since it can empower organizations of all sizes. And this is important because, I think a lot of our customers think that Pi is really only suitable for large businesses, but I really want to show you guys that that's not necessarily the case, because Pi can provide a ton of value to organizations of all sizes, no matter how small you are. And if you joined this session thinking that, we were going to give out slices of Pi to everyone, I'm sorry for misleading you guys, because I'm going to be talking about AVEVA Pi. But feel free to order apple pie with your Grubhub voucher if this presentation makes you hungry. All right. So the way I like to start talking about Pi is kind of describe one of the problems that we have in our industry, which is that we have a pretty major data siloing problem. Because managing operational data can be very complex with the different databases and data lakes that we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And so this diagram kind of shows what I mean here, which is that we have a plethora of operational data sources that include SCADA sources, PLC sources, controllers, SQL databases, Excel spreadsheets, text files, etc. The list goes on. And all this information is kind of stored all over the place in different databases that we have to manage. And so it makes it really complex and difficult to extract that data, manage it, and deliver it to the right data consumers, as we can see on this page here. And this is true for really all types of organizations, no matter the scale. It's not just for large organizations, because organizations of all sizes struggle with this. If anything, the smaller you are, the less resources you have to manage this. You just don't have the personnel available to track down all of this data or manage each individual database. And it's an especially difficult thing to manage as your operation scales up and you add more and more technologies and more data. And so that's where, Pi comes in to save the day, because it provides order to this chaos and streamlines that whole process. And so now you can take all of your operational data sources, collect them and aggregate them into a single place. That's the Pi server. Use some tools that the Pi server provides. We'll talk about this in a later slide, to store and enhance that data, to grab and get the most value out of that data that you're aggregating into your Pi server, and then visualize and deliver that data to the right data consumers. So that entire process is now streamlined, and the data siloing problem has been solved, because Pi provides this single source of truth for all of your operational data. And so when I describe Pi, there's generally 3 layers to the workflow, and I like to break it down by those 3 layers. And the first one starts with the data collection, the data aggregation features that Pi offers to you. And it does this by offering over 400 different drivers. So these are called interfaces and connectors. They're based over 400 different drivers that support over 225 different industrial protocols that make Pi as data source agnostic as possible. There's over 4 decades of investment that I've gone into developing Pi to make sure that you can just plug and play it and collect all sorts of industrial data into the Pi system, and not be limited by specific controller brands or specific obscure data sources. And all of these drivers are out of the box. AVEVA maintained them, and so it requires no programming from on your part. All you need to do is do some simple setup and simple configuration to get them going. And so once you've aggregated all that data from these different data sources into Pi, Pi can store that data with high fidelity and store it for a very long time. And it also offers you the ability to provide context to that data and run analytics on the raw data set. And so let's talk about that by looking at the next slide here. The way it does this is by offering several different features, including the asset framework, asset analytics, event frames, and notifications. And so what those are essentially tools that sit on top of your data archives. That's the raw historian component of Pi, where you're storing all that data coming in from the different data sources. And then asset framework allows you to structure and reorganize that data and transform it from machine-friendly into human-friendly format. And we can see an example of that on the right side here, where on the bottom right of this diagram, we have a asset framework structure that has a pump station kind of master template that is being derived multiple times for multiple different pumps. So each pump that is using that pump station template has associated with it these tags that we see here: the flow rate, the pressure, the manufacturer, and the service date. And so you can copy and paste that template each time you have an instance of that pump. So that reduces your engineering development time and standardizes your approach across the board. And in doing so, you can relabel that machine-friendly format tag naming convention into human-friendly format. So we can see the flow rate is linked to this raw tag called mp01.hou.pv. And so we relabeled that from that naming convention that typically comes from the PLC, mp01.hou.pv, that not everyone might be able to know what that means. And so we're taking that and relabeling it into a way that into a format that is understandable by everyone. So now all of a sudden that tag is called flow rate. And so everyone can look inside this database and see that we're talking about the flow rate of pump 01. And so that's the framework, right? Allows you to restructure and reorganize and relabel the data that's inside of your historian. And then on top of that, Pi also has a very powerful analytics engine. And so you can use these calculations to perform analytics on your data. So now you're getting a ton of value out of that data, because not only are you monitoring your raw data, but you're also running calculations on top of that. And so you can use that to perform, condition-based monitoring calculations, for example, efficiency calculations, so on and so forth. The world is your oyster, right? As long as you have that data coming into Pi, you can take that data and analyze it. And then on top of that, we have what we call event frames. And so that's a really helpful tool for bookmarking important events. So that could be, planned downtime, unplanned downtime, alarm states, whatever it is, right? If you have cadence of certain events that you need to monitor, you can predefine those events based on certain triggers and associate the specific data that you want to monitor with those event frames, so that when the events do occur, you specify that ahead of time. And so now the event is triggered and active, you can really quickly view the data pertaining to that event without needing to hunt down the specific information for that event. It's all going to be available to you out of the box because you predefine those specific event frames. And then last but not least, we have a notification engine as well. So you can deliver all the necessary information via email to whoever needs to see it. So if a specific event is triggered, you can specify to send an email notification for that event. And what that'll do is it will send an email to whoever needs to monitor that event with all the associated data in that email. And so really, before I move on here, right, I just wanted to kind of emphasize that this asset framework structure and analytics engine and notification engine, event frameworks, this is going to be useful for organizations of all sizes, not just large organizations, because really no matter the size of your operation, you have operational data that you need to get the most value out of. And you need to be able to do this in the most streamlined and efficient way possible. And so Pi gives you the ability to structure and reorganize and reformat the data that is essential for all types of organizations, no matter how small you are. And then to kind of wrap up the third layer of the workflow here, once you've collected and aggregated the data into the Pi server, you've used these tools that we talked about for storing and enriching and enhancing that data. Now we can take that curated data and visualize and deliver it to the right people. And so that's where our client tools like Pi Vision and Pi Data Link come in. Pi Vision is a dashboarding tool where you can, that's accessed through a web browser. So you just go to a web browser on any device that has an internet connection and it's been given the right permissions to access the Pi Vision client tool. And you can load those dashboards and view the data in context with each other. And you can also view KPIs in Microsoft Excel by using Pi Data Link, which provides wizards for generating calculations and reports on the data that's inside of your Pi server. And then to kind of wrap up this presentation here, as part of our commercial offering, we offer Pi as part of Pi data infrastructure. And not only does that include the Pi server, which is the on-premise component that I talked about, it also includes an optional cloud component called Connect and Connect Data Services. And my coworker, Tim, will be discussing it in more detail in a later presentation, but I just wanted to emphasize that this is another reason that Pi and Pi data infrastructure really is for everyone, because thanks to Connect, it can democratize your data and allow you to share your data securely over the cloud to whoever you choose, whether that's internal or external users. So now your data is no longer just accessible to a select few SCADA engineers, but really everyone in your organization or outside of your organization. Whoever you choose to share data to will now have access to it through the cloud. And again, my coworker Tim will talk about that in a later presentation. And so just to finish this conversation, let's talk a little bit about licensing, because I keep kind of repeating the fact that Pi really is suitable for everyone. And so let me put my money where my mouth is here and show you guys why that is in terms of the licensing options that we make available to you guys. So the standard licensing model for Pi data infrastructure, it starts at 1,000 tags and goes all the way to 500,000 tags. And it's actually even possible to get licenses that support larger sizes than that, because we do have customers that have Pi systems with millions of tags, and we'll continue to be able to support that. But not only that, but it shows that Pi is truly available for customers of all sizes, because Pi servers for 1,000 tags are also possible, and everything in between 1,000 tag systems all the way to 500 or million tag Pi servers. And the 1,000 tag option, that's a very small Pi system, and it comes at a very affordable price. So this can be extremely helpful for even the smallest of organizations out there. And as an added bonus, we also have the ability to provide free trials for customers that want to try out the Pi system. And these free trials, they're available upon request. And we typically provide 30-day trial licenses, but we can also go up to 60-day or 90-day trial licenses, depending on the business case. And so this is just a great, generous offer from AVEVA to make Pi accessible to even more customers. And if you're interested in this, please reach out to your account manager and we can discuss that in more detail.